Hey, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Okay, there we go. Welcome to the Income Tax Subcommittee of the Ways and Means Committee. I've got 2:01. We're a little past time, but we can go ahead and get started this afternoon. The first bill we're going to hear for presentations from Chairman Petrie, if he's still in the room. Here we go. Chairman Petrie, if you'd like to come have a seat, tell us, identify yourself for the audience, and give us your bill, LC number, and tell us what the measure does, please.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the audience, I'm Representative Jesse Petrie, represent Chatham and Bryan counties on the Georgia coast, and wouldn't be here today if it weren't for international paper that was Union Camp, that was before that Union Bag. And I only tell you that because it's relevant to this discussion today. Mr. Chairman, bring this committee HB 1085, which is LC 443373. Should be the one you have before you. Is that correct, Mr. Chairman? Okay. That's the one you got?
Yep.
We had a few iterations, so I wanted to make sure that's when everybody's been distributed. All right, Mr. Chairman. So here's what we have today. Long before the film industry, long before that was created by my sweet mate, Ron Stevens, because of a similar process we're going to talk about today, long before Hyundai and long before all the other industries we have in this state, we had the timber industry. It built Savannah, as Ron knows well, back in the day. It's about all we had. And so we are number one in the country in timber. We're number one in pulp. And many of our counties, like some of my colleagues I'm looking at here today, their counties depend on timber taxes. Well, recently we've seen in our forestry sector a real calamity of closures of mills, and I'll mention just a few this year. The International Paper Mill in Savannah that I just alluded to, and in Riceboro, Georgia Pacific at Cedar Springs, and West Fraser in Augusta, my seatmate, former seatmate, Representative Prince. And so this has been a $3 billion total economic impact in Georgia, 7,000 jobs, and 6,000 truck trips off the road. It's been an enormous calamity, really, and if we don't do something about it, we're going to be in trouble, because we're the wood basket, really, of the country. We have so much supply, but we've lost the demand. And so what this measure proposes is to do something very similar to what Chairman Stevens did with film tax credits, and that is we're going to take, in this case, existing jobs tax credits, existing investment tax credits for industry, and we're going to make them transferable specifically for forestry manufacturing. So just circumscribed to forestry manufacturing, and I'll define that in a moment, circumscribed just to forestry manufacturing, we're going to allow those tax credits to be transferable to incentivize industry to make the major investments and to be able to monetize them very quickly that are necessary to get some of the most innovative types of forestry manufacturing into Georgia and or back into Georgia. So let me mention what we're talking about here when we talk about forestry manufacturing. We're talking about sawmills, paper mills, pulp mills, mass timber, pellet mills, cabinets, hardwood floors, and of course biofuel, which is something we're all excited about ultimately having access to and manufacturing in Georgia. So just on forestry manufacturing, make them transferable. We've seen it work in other industries. In discussions with all of our experts in the forestry industry and with organizations that are in the forestry industry, this is the fastest, most direct route to try to resolve this problem. Mr. Chairman, that's a broad overview, but I'm glad to answer any questions.
Why don't you just walk us specific through the bill?
Yes, sir.
If you like to.
Certainly. All right. So
While you're looking for that, is it not true that in the late 1800s, Darien, Georgia, was one of the wealthiest towns on the eastern seaboard, primarily due to the timber trade? Is that not true?
I believe that is absolutely true, Chairman, and they love to make wooden ships out of those beautiful live oaks that we have at home back in the day, and they did a lot of timbering on the Georgia coast as well. All right, Section 1, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to try to make sure I go through as simply as I can. Section 1 relates specifically to jobs tax credits, and those that are in tiers 1, 2, 3, and 4 counties. So we're capturing basically everybody, right? Because it's not just rural communities, but I just mentioned International Paper is in Chatham County in Savannah. So we're capturing all of those counties. And what we're doing in Section 1 is extending those already existing jobs tax credits for forestry manufacturing and for taxable years 2026. That's Section 1, Mr. Chairman. If there's any questions about that, or I'll go to Section 2. So each section kind of, they're very similar, but they're attacking different jobs credits in different tiers. Section 2, again, is jobs tax credits for tiers 1 and tier 2 counties. And so here you're basically applying the less developed areas jobs tax credit, so the better credit for the more rural, the 1 and 2 tiers, for those same forestry manufacturers. And again, similarly allows the transfer sale of unused credits for taxable years 2026 through 2030. Okay? That's Section 2. Section 3, now we're dealing with the investment tax credits, again, that already exist. And this section itself deals with just Tier 1 counties. And so it provides forestry manufacturers. These are very repetitive. They're speaking to each of the different tax credits and different special situations with the different tiers.
And
that's Section 3.
For the members, that's lines 219 through 222.
Correct. That's right. Section 4, again, is dealing with investment tax credits, okay? And it is dealing with Tier 2 counties for those investment tax credits. And again, it's specific to forestry manufacturers, and in this case, an existing 5% tax credit for investment properties makes them transferable, as does each other section, for taxable years 2026 to 2030.
And just to point out, is it not true that we're, in this particular case, currently for any manufacturing it's 3% for Tier 2 counties, and this would raise it to 5% for the timber-specific industries that we're naming?
That is correct, Chairman. I'm sorry. I need to make a note of that so I can explain it next time. All right, gotcha. All right, Section 5. Section 5, again, is dealing with the investment tax credit, and now in this section for Tiers 3 and 4 counties, okay? And it applies a 1% investment tax credit, 1%, for forestry manufacturers, and allows transferability again, like each section does, for years 2026 through 2030. As with the other sections.
Let me interrupt you right there. What, Chatham County, what tier is that?
That's Tier 1.
Tier,
right.
no,
Yeah.
Not Tier 1, it'd be Tier 4?
I mean 5. I meant
4.
5, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Tier 4.
I was going the wrong direction.
Yeah, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm assuming that's Tier 4.
We're urban. Chatham is urban, yeah.
Well, walk us on through, but I do have a question about that section.
Yes, sir.
In a
Yes, sir,
minute.
about Section 5. Okay. All right. Section 6 is just effective dates, and we do have an issue we need to address that was, we just figured, we know this is hearing only, and we're in the subcommittee. We're going to correct this when we come back, but we are going to change on If you look at section 6 on line 400, we need to change that date. So it's not going to be January 1 of 2027. It's not going to be July 1 of 2026 on line 399. Yes, it will. No, we got to move the effective date back on line 400. So where it says January 1, 2027.
We're proposing to move that to 2026 then, where it'll be effective this year?
That's right.
Okay.
So we want that to be effective.
And this is a hearing only, so-
immediately. Yeah, so we're just gonna bring you back a sub on that. So we want it to be effective immediately rather than push it. So that's pretty much it, Chairman.
Okay. I just want to go ahead and ask the question while I've got, while I'm wrapping my mind around it. In the Tier 3 and 4 sections, which is, you're looking at from 343, currently the code says Tier 3, 4 counties, any manufacturing industry that qualifies in 3 or 4 gets 1% of the cost of all qualified investment property purchase in taxpayer in any such year. Your bill is increasing the Tier 1 from 5% to 8%. Your bill in Tier 2 is increasing it from 3% to 5%. But this section is not increasing your investment tax credit. It remains at 1%, which I just think that's, our effort is to reinvigorate this industry quickly. It's on its knees right now. So I would suggest we might want to go back and look and see if that might have been almost a scrivener's error, because we've lost the jobs in Tier 3, Tier 4 counties, and we want to make sure that we're making every avenue available for those jobs to come back. So that's in line 354 I'm referring to. Now, I know that we do, in fact, 354 says equal to 1%.
Yes.
So my point is, there's no change in that.
That is
There's
correct.
no
Right
lift.
now, it's currently 1%.
Although
As on
we would
line
have the
345.
transferability is important, but that's something we need to at least have a discussion on.
So, Chairman, to that point, thank you for that. Obviously, I'm in the posture of being, I would love to do as much as we can. We're doing a lot of this for other industries. And I think this one is more deserving than almost any we could think of. So I appreciate that support. The goal was at first, it's kind of morphed a little bit. We started off just wanting to make what we have transferable. You're right, we've made some of those credits more robust. The question is, we do more than that, more of that. I want the committee to help us to create where this needs to be, and also as it relates to caps. So I want to call attention to the fact that there's no cap addressed here in this measure. So we're going to need this committee to help us to migrate through several questions. You just raised a very good one, sir.
You're at the right place to
Yes,
to have
sir.
help.
I know
So
that. And that's why we left it out. We felt like this was a better place to.
I'm going to recognize Representative Buckner.
In reference to the question about the 1% not changing, help me understand, just a few lines down, it talks about the conversion from the defense to domestic production, and the amount of the credit shall be equal to 3%. Can you help me understand how a few lines up it talks about equal to 1%?
All right.
And then
What line are you on?
344 to 351.
344.
It's talking about
That's
recycling.
existing language. Yes, ma'am.
I know. And 354 down to 361. It talks about 1% and 3% in the old language and in the new language. So I understand it's not changing, but it's talking about different things that it's being used for.
I know that in the current code has a 3% bonus for pollution control equipment, and that's what that's pointing to. If I'm reading that, which is
Because
current.
this is about recycling.
It's referring to recycling. pollution
all right.
control.
In the lines 357 through 361, in the event such qualified investment property purchase or acquired by the taxpayer in such year consists of recycling machinery or equipment, a recycling manufacturer facility, pollution control or prevention or pollution control or prevention machinery or equipment, a pollution control or prevention facility, or the conversion from defense to domestic production, the amount of such credit shall be equal to 3%. So there are, in the current code, there's some lifts for that, for the recycling and pollution
Right.
in our current tier structure for manufacturing investment tax credits.
But we did, yeah, right, that is correct, but I wanted to just say that that is new
So
language.
there's no.
But I just want, is there anything you can help her with to add to that?
Yeah.
If there's any, it might be helpful to
Yeah.
add.
All right, Jay, hold on. We're right here.
Introduce yourself.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Jake Matthews with the Georgia Forestry Association, and the way y'all just outlined it, I believe, is exactly correct. You'll see that it breaks down different types of manufacturing within existing code, some of which are subject to 1, some are subject to 3. We went with the higher of the 2 for all of the forestry manufacturing outlined. For each section, we chose the higher.
Thank you, Jake. We'll recognize whoever's at microphone 12.
Thank you very much. And this is for the my man from the forestry. Is there any talk at all, and this doesn't really necessarily pertain to the bill, but about similar to how the guys in the peanut industry had a co-op to deal with further processing peanuts? What efforts are happening in forestry where guys are thinking about coming together and forming a nonprofit? Because then this would be a transferable tax credit. It would work out good for them. At the same time, figuring out a way together to further process their products.
So it's definitely been something that's been discussed. I know that various landowners as well as different companies, really on the landowner side, it's been a point of discussion. But really, what this doesn't address it, right? So what this really is aimed at doing is making Georgia stand out among all of our southeastern states as really the premier place for new investment in forestry manufacturing. So if you look across the southeast, you've seen a lot of significant mill closures take place over the last 24 to 36 months. And so here in Georgia, most recently, we really have been kind of late to the game there in terms of experiencing those mill closures. We saw a lot of that take place late last year with some of the closures that Representative Petrie outlined. Because of that, we're also last in line right now when it comes to really trying to go out and attract new investment. And so what this is trying to do is say, how can we make Georgia stand out? So when you've got a company that's looking across the southeast, which is really the timber basket here, when they look across the southeast and they say, do I want to go put a new facility here, or do I want to go put it in Georgia? Or if they're looking at existing facilities and they say, do I want to go reinvest in this facility here in Georgia, or do I want to put that money elsewhere?
Any further follow-up questions? Any other questions from members of the committee?
Mr. Chairman, I would just add one thing to that. Alabama, speaking to what Jake was speaking to, Alabama's already done this with this transferability, and we recently had they have a new mill being built there right now as we speak. So,
Well, it's a great presentation. Chairman Petrie, is, in the forest products industry is the number one industry. Agriculture is our number one industry in the state, and forestry is the number one part of our agriculture industry. And we are on our knees right now. We've got to do something. Too many Georgia jobs and families are suffering right now. We understand that this would be a time-limited, time-sunsetted effort to get them back on their feet. So that's all we have for the Income Tax Subcommittee. Again, this first hearing, we can take everything else offline, and we're going to go ahead and hear the next bill.
thanks, Jake.
Which I would like to call, is Representative Wade in the room? Yes, sir. Will Wade, I understand you've got a governor's bill. Yes, sir. And for the members' consideration, we've got two governor's bill here. Typically, we have two hearings. I'd love to entertain a motion. We waive the two hearings on these two measures, and we'll just, all right, got a motion and a second. That will be House Bill 1001 and House Bill 1000. Is any discussion? Hearing none, we're going to waive, motion carries that we'll waive the second reading for these two bill numbers in particular. All right, fully to Wade.
All right, thank you very much, Chairman, and to the committee members. I appreciate this opportunity to present to you our tax cut accelerator for the state individual income tax, House Bill 1001. It says LC 590226-EC. I just want to go and remind this committee that this is continuation of the work from House Bill 1437 that was actually sponsored by Chairman Blackman, which provided the largest income tax cut in our state's history. As many of you remember, that original bill planned to initiate a flat tax beginning at 5.49% from 5.75 in 2023, and then allowed for an annual step down in our income tax rate to an eventual 4.99 by tax year 2029. This measure will actually expedite that 3 years earlier than originally contemplated, based on how this Georgia legislature, as well as the governor's office, has managed the state and managed expectations. I want to also highlight, because of the conservative budgeting, we were able to accelerate that rate to 5.39 in 2024, and then back from 5.39 to 5.19 effective this past July 1st. So this year, we're asking again to cut taxes for hardworking Georgians, to remove or to reduce this additional 20 basis points to take this down to 4.99 for tax year 2026. This acceleration, the reduction, will save taxpayers $917 million. This also includes a reduction in taxes for our job creators, because, as you recall from 2 sessions ago, House Bill 1023, which you, Chairman, Representative Williamson, carried, tied the corporate income tax rate to match that of the state personal income tax rate. So we started at 5.75 back in 2022, and now we're asking this committee to consider reducing it to 4.99 3 years earlier. I'm happy to go through the bill. It's not a lot of changes because it's just ratcheting down, but if you join with me, just a couple of points, or however you want me to handle it, sir.
I think this is pretty clear.
Yes, sir.
What's going on right here. We've got a question from whomever is at mic number 25.
At the proper time,
Chairman Stevens.
just at the proper time.
Well, is there any further questions from the presenter of the bill? All right. Representative Prince.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for bringing the bill. Basically, before we had some safeguards in the place, for lack of better words. So looking at the bill, with everything scratched out, basically we're taking those out and just going from where we are now straight to 4.9. Is that
Does he mean the triggers, I'm assuming?
triggers? Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
The safeguards,
Let me let
triggers.
Calvin, I'll let him introduce himself. He's from the governor's office. He worked
Okay.
with this with OPB, and I think he can more succinctly answer that question.
Go
Yes,
ahead.
sir. Calvin Sorby from the governor's office. Chairman, our Representative Wade is correct. So we struck those triggers just because we had now brought the language down to 4.99, which was originally contemplated under 1437. And so in doing so, those triggers no longer needed to stay in code because of we had gone to that 4.99% that was the benchmark originally. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Chairman Martin, if he.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This must be correct, but I just want to make sure. I know 2025 is over. We're striking through that. I just want to make clear to everyone that there are refunds that there will be changes that people make to their tax return. This does in any way, shape, or form cause a problem with the rate at 5.19 for the year 2025. Because we're lining through that in lines 11 and 12. Just
I
assure me
think
of that.
here's my thought on that is, because the effective date of this would be based on the 2026 tax year, it would not inherently change 2025 because 2025 would no longer be relevant.
But it strikes Georgia code that refers to 2025. I'm sure it's right. I just want to get it in my head. It's revenue. Y'all are okay with this, yes? Yes. Never mind.
All right.
I'm good.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Martin. We got a motion on the table. I'll entertain a second. We got a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the measure signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Chairman.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And now I'll call on Representative Gamble for House Bill 1000, please.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. It's good to be with you today. As already has been mentioned, this is the second bill that we have as a part of the governor's legislative package. House Bill 1000 that you have in front of you is a repeat of 3 pieces of legislation that we have approved in the past. One of those being House Bill 1302 from 2022, the other being House Bill 162 from 2023, and finally House Bill 112 from 2025. The value of this tax refund is approximately $1.17 billion. The funds will be included in the amended budget, and again, it will be a benefit of $250 for individual filers, $375 for heads of household, and $500 for those married filing jointly. Too many Georgians are still struggling to make ends meet, and this is the latest way the governor is working to support hardworking Georgians. While other states are growing government and wasting tax dollars, in Georgia we are returning taxpayer dollars to their rightful owners, the taxpayers, when we take in more than we need. Other examples: 2 other income tax refunds, a round of homeowner property tax relief grants, multiple gas tax suspensions, in addition to other legislative items such as the acceleration of the step down for individual, which we just talked about, and now corporate, thanks to the leadership of Chairman Williamson, income taxes. Altogether, we've committed to saving Georgians almost $9.4 billion over the last few years, with $7.3 billion in surplus revenues returned to taxpayers in the last 4 years. Taxpayers will simply need to file their tax returns for 2024 and 2025 in order to receive this refund. Of note, if a taxpayer's 2025 liability is less than the either $250, $375, or $500, depending on how they file, then that Georgian will be credited their 2025 liability rather than the refund. If the 2025 liability is more, then they will get their full refund. So that is in essence the bill. It's the same as what we have passed 3 times prior. Again, I know that I can go through the bill line item by line item, but Chairman, I will defer to you if you feel that that's necessary.
Thank you. Chairman Blackman has one question. What's the number?
Is that me? Just to be consistent with our House Appropriations Committee, we may have a conversation there first before we, take the next steps here. But certainly, I think that we're all in favor of what's trying to be done.
Certainly, and I recognize that, and I trust the leadership of our House and the governor to work that out and figure out what we need to do. I think the great thing is we're having a conversation about 2 things that ultimately will benefit Georgians and support tax relief. So that's a very good thing.
Thank you. On that note, can you remind us how much dollars have gone back to the Georgia taxpayer so far into Governor Kemp's administration?
Looking back at my notes, we've got
just a round aggregate number.
$9.4 billion.
Billion dollars.
Billion with a
right.
B.
$1 billion.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. All right, we are going to hold this bill and just have an appropriations discussion before we move this bill. But thank you. I believe you got a lot of support for this measure. If there's no other questions, we're going to move on to the next bill. Thank you, Representative Young. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
What is our next bill? Is that the? Chairman Carson, I'm going to recognize you for House Bill 1199. You can present from your seat.
Thank you for that, Mr. Chairman. This is House Bill 1199. This is our annual housekeeping measure for IRC, or Internal Revenue Code conformity. This is a bill that's absolutely essential in whatever form it looks like, so our practitioners across the state can file tax returns. This 24? Absolutely essential for practitioners across the state looking to make sure we're in compliance. I also included, for members of the committee, I included sort of a two-page summary. You'll see it in the electronic file. It's labeled IRC Conformity Summary. We're conforming to a number of measures, except for all of the measures within 179, not all of Section 168 from the One Big Beautiful Bill. And we're not conforming to tax on tips, tax on overtime, or deduction of car loan interest. We would love to do that, but here in Georgia, we have a constitutional amendment for a balanced budget, and quite frankly, those were two issues with those. One, it's very, very costly. And number two, structurally, we would need to put something like that in regard to tax on tips and tax on overtime. That would need to be part of a separate legislation. What you see in LC 443355, LC 443355, that is simply the approach it takes is more or less to whether or not to adopt certain sections of the IRC or not. It doesn't really give us the option in regard to thresholds, like thresholds for how many tips, or thresholds in regard to how much overtime pay did you get. That would need to be part structurally of a separate bill. So with that, I'm happy to go by section, Mr. Chairman. I know this is first hearing, but
I'm sorry. Thank you, Chairman. I think you've given a really good overview of the measure.
if I could, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
I just
please.
wanted to stress that this, as it's currently proposed to you in its current form, is a tax cut. It is a tax cut for 2026, a slight increase for 27, and future tax revenue cuts in 28 going forward.
Do you have a fiscal note, or do you have the documentation of that?
We have a Fiscal Research Center spreadsheet from Georgia State. That's not in the form of a fiscal note to the chairman that I know of, but we do have numbers in regard to
Well,
that.
this was a first hearing only, so maybe we can share the data with members of the committee when we have a second hearing.
Okay.
Any further questions for the author of the bill? Hearing none, we will move on. I'm sorry, got Representative Fry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative, I just want to see, like, if you go down in the business section, on the second page, it says,
What line?
and I'm not talking about the bill, I'm talking about the handout.
Oh,
Right now.
sorry.
I'm sorry, sir.
I apologize. I don't have a copy of the handout.
It's on the folder.
Sorry about that.
Department of Revenue was kind enough to go through this and verify accuracy of the representative's question.
Yes, sir. I'm just looking at, I see the no tax on tips and overtime, but what is full expensing for qualified business property? I haven't had time to go look at IRC section 168K.
Covers a lot of detail. I don't know if Kelsey Fenn if you want to invite her up for this, but I can pull up my spreadsheet in regard to that, Mr. Chairman.
What's her name?
She's here, Kelsey Fenn.
Ms. Kelsey, would you like to come to the podium or the table, whatever you're more comfortable with? For the record, just state your name and what department you're with, please.
Hey, Kelsey Finn, Department of Revenue. 168K is a section we've not conformed to previously. It's real estate investors, manufacturing. So it's a pretty large expense in our note. It's about $961 million. So, but we haven't conformed to it previously.
Okay, so is that so they allow you to expense what? Could you say? And this is friendly. I'm not trying to fight or anything. I'm really trying to get my head around this. What's full expensing for qualified business property? Be like every single
I don't
time
actually
you
have
spend.
that part in front of me, but I will get it to you after this.
Okay.
All the information. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I'm going to go look at it myself,
All right,
but
awesome.
I appreciate it. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to try to answer these questions offline. Thank you for your
Thank you, because it's good questions. I know everyone in the business community is trying to wrap their mind around exactly where the thresholds are and what the big beautiful bill does. So thank you. Any further questions for the author? Again, that was the first hearing. Thank you, Chairman Carson. Thank you for your work as always on this measure. And we're going to move on to the next bill. It's going to be House Bill 880 by our Chairman, Chairman Shaw Blackman.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll go through the provisions of this that we did before. You heard from Leader Wade just a few minutes ago that this kind of follows in suit with what we have been doing with regard to our income tax here in Georgia. This takes the rate over time. We do reinstate the benchmarks and the triggers here in 880. Assuming you'll have this LC 590295S, takes the rate on down to 399, a full point, raises the standard deduction by $3,000 for single, $6,000 for married, and then raises the dependent deduction by $1,000, all a tenth at a time. It raises your revenue shortfall reserve up to 50%, and half of that may be enabled or is enabled for taxpayer relief, and then it takes the senior exemption from $65,000 up to $70,000, so an increase in $5,000 for our seniors. Again, it reinstates the same benchmarks that have been in code, and be happy to try to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman. Did you find your page?
I did. Thank you, smart Alec. All right, Representative Buckner.
Well, it sounds like we've heard two bills very similar. Are they going to compete with each other, conflict each other, come together at some point?
I think this bill would, Madam Representative, this would pick up where the other one leaves off, if that's maybe an appropriate way to say this. I think that one takes us to 499. This would allow us to go down a further point. Leaves the same triggers in place, and also takes the standard deduction up and the dependent deduction up, as well as a couple other things that I mentioned with the senior exemption. And
so which one would help the people we're not giving tax benefits for their wages, for their tips better?
I think that's a separate issue. I think. Thank you.
Which one would be more help?
Ma'am?
I said I was trying to figure out if either one of them would help them, since we didn't. We've helped everybody but them.
Well, if you take the standard deduction from $12,000 to $15,000 and the dependent deduction from $4,000 to $5,000, I think that's certainly is something that helps all taxpayers. If you take the rate down from 499 down to 399, again, both of these over time, you're helping all taxpayers.
Thank you, Chairman Blackman. So we're suggesting to take that revenue shortfall reserve to 50%?
It would take it from 15 up to increase the cap up to 50. It doesn't require it to go to 50. It just moves that cap from what is now 15% up to 50, and then allows anything half of that, anything over 25, that could be used for taxpayer relief.
Okay.
Borrowed the idea from another state, and I know we have some people here that could probably speak a little bit more so to that, but again, puts us in position to backfill if some of these were to move forward and something were needed. It does provide some rainy day relief for our taxpayers.
Is it not true that this is another fiscally responsible way to have a measured and conservative approach to further income tax reduction?
I think that's very accurate, Mr. Chairman.
And just restating every income tax, correct me if I'm wrong, but every income tax cut that this Ways and Means Committee's passed, when we first took the rate from 6% down to what's currently going to be 4.99% in this tax year, is it not true the state of Georgia actually got as much or more revenue, actually more revenues year over year, even though the income tax rate was going down over that time period?
We have seen kind of a structural surplus move into place, yes, sir.
Which means we're able to, and it's effectively being able to leave more tax dollars in hardworking Georgians' pockets and yet still have the sufficient resources to run the state of Georgia in a fiscally conservative manner, as evidenced by our reserves right now. So I've got a question from Chairman Martin.
Just real quick, Mr. Chairman, is this when we were working on the other bill? Both of them deal with A1, paragraph 1. And is that we need to merge these two together so that we don't overwrite one? Is that what you're planning to do?
Yeah, that
Okay,
is the
that's
way.
what I thought.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good enough.
Okay, this was the second hearing of this bill. What's the pleasure of the committee? Got a motion second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, Chairman Blackman. And that's the last measure we had for the Income Tax Subcommittee, so this committee will stand adjourned. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start in 2 minutes. Ad valorem subcommittee. You first. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call the Ad Valorem Subcommittee to order. And at this time, we're going to ask Representative Cannon if he'd come up. HB 964, we've heard from you once already, Representative, so we'll let you go and see what kind of motion we get.
Thanks for allowing me the chance to come back to the committee, Mr. Chairman. I do have a substitute. I took the advice of Chairman Martin, and if at the right time, if I can discuss the substitute, Mr. Chairman, page 14, line 14, not page 14, line 14, that word was exclusively. And in talking with DOR, I didn't have an issue with it, but I think we just want to kind of give some flexibility there, and we changed it to substantially. So that's in line 14, and also in line 23, you'll see that reflected from exclusively to substantially. But essentially, I just kind of do a recap of the bill. You know, some of your independent fire contractors that are engaged by counties and cities have to pay ad valorem tax and sales tax on vehicles and equipment, even though they're executing a public mission. But at the same time, organic fire departments that are, again, organic to local governments are not having to pay ad valorem tax on and sales tax on their equipment and vehicles, even though they're both engaged in the code section 25-1-1, which I went through, protect life and property against fire, explosions, hazardous materials and electric hazards, et cetera. I think we're still waiting on a fiscal note. I've heard that's in the works. And Mr. Chairman, that's all I have, unless there's any questions from the committee.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Martin.
I would just caution the gentleman on taking advice from anyone. And given that, then I'd move this item, move forward to full committee with due pass recommendation, if you're ready for that, Mr. Chairman.
Well, let me ask if somebody, hold that thought. Anybody in the audience have any comments they want to make? All right, go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
I move due pass on LC 59-031-0314S.
All right, we've got a motion. Do I hear a second? We got a second right here. Now, any discussion by members of the committee? Hear none? I'll call for the vote. Everybody in favor do pass, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Mr. Chairman, you ready to roll?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you all very much.
Yes, sir. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Right there is fine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'll bring to you today House Resolution 1000. It's substitute LC 443321S. Georgia is a national leader in forestry, and the timber industry is a cornerstone of our state's economy. Over the past year, Georgia timber farmers have faced severe economic hardship following the closure of multiple paper mills and sawmills, and many are still experiencing significant loss in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. These setbacks are straining family timber operations and the rural communities that depend on forestry jobs and timber income. I've introduced House Resolution 1000. It's a bipartisan piece of legislation, proposed constitutional amendment to eliminate the ad valorem tax assessment on standing timber at harvest or sale when that timber comes from a qualifying assessment on conservation use land. That'd be CUVA, FLIP, or the preferential covenant. The relief is tied to an active covenant and requires the owners to keep the property in forest land conservation use. And if the covenant is breached within 10 years, the state will recapture the tax savings and any other penalties. With many Georgia timber farmers deciding whether they can afford to stay in the industry, this resolution provides an incentive to keep family timber farms in production by limiting the benefit to land kept in conservation use. Additionally, local governments and school districts will be reimbursed for any resulting revenue lost as a result of this resolution if it's approved by the voters in November, of course. The cost to the state there's a fiscal note in the folder. The cost of the state is $10 to $12.7 million. However, the final figure is detailed there in the fiscal note. It's 10 to 12.7 million. This is a targeted, necessary step to support Georgia's timber industry and protect our rural communities. I want to thank Chairman Noel Williams, seated in front of me, for his work on this issue over the years. He's passed measure House Resolution 96 in the House in 2023 that ultimately didn't reach passage in the Senate. And I've even started conversations with our colleagues on the Senate on this issue early. Timber is there's no other severance tax in any other commodity. It's treated differently than everything else, and this is to address that, make sure there's uniformity, particularly when our timber industry is facing such. Family timber farms are facing such real challenges right now, are really in a crisis based on the closure of these mills and the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Leader. Have any members of the committee have any questions? Do I hear a motion that we suspend the rules and go ahead and vote on this issue? So we've discussed it in the past. Got a motion, is there a second? Second, got a second. All those in favor to suspend the rules, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, so at this time, no questions. Anybody in the audience have a comment they'd like to make? Mr. Tim, how you doing?
Doing great, Chairman Vance. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come up and offer our support for what we believe is a great resolution. Leader, we appreciate you bringing this forward this year. And recognizing the positive impact that this can have on a community who is facing a lot of uncertainty as it rebounds from Hurricane Helene, as you have stated correctly, and then also as we are trying to respond to a tremendous amount of uncertainty in our wood markets here in our state. So we appreciate this body and we appreciate this committee's work to recognize the positive impacts of this resolution, and we, as a Georgia Forestry Association, support this measure and look forward to seeing it proceed forward. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Anybody else? Okay, now do I hear a motion on the HR 1000? So moved. Got a motion, is there a second? Got a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you, Mr. Leader. Okay, let's see. We've got Representative Richardson. He's going to come forward, and I think he's going to bring a guest with him. And we're going to look at HB 1178. Well, I think you want. I'm going to leave it up to you. Which one do you want to discuss?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, we'd like to go with the HR 1178 first,
okay.
Please.
You go ahead. Go ahead. Thank you.
Yes, sir. This is already state law in homestead tax relief for citizens of Georgia is a big topic this year, and I think it's a goal of everybody in the House and up here to try and find some relief. And what we'd like to do on this resolution, in the state law now, there's a $18,000 cap, and we would like to remove that cap. So that is the request, and I think on some of the other legislation that's being discussed, this also is going to be a CA for that to happen also. So this is, we'd just like to request that.
Mr. Chairman, my name's Tom Gale, and I'm representing Columbia County. And you all in the House are very familiar with the Homestead Tax Relief Grant, having just approved on Friday a budget that directs millions and millions of dollars to homestead tax relief. And what we're trying to do is allow cities and counties to provide a local homestead tax relief program, similar to the program that's been in the Georgia Constitution for many years. As Representative Richardson said, House Resolution 1178 would amend the Constitution by specifically granting the authority of local governments to set up these types of programs that the General Assembly has been using in the past and is proposed to use this year through the House budget. But it also removes the $18,000 cap that it also removes that $18,000 cap that's in the Constitution. And the reason we're looking to do that is potentially in cities and counties across the state that are well-managed, have economic development, they could reduce the homestead tax liability to zero in that case. And I would be glad to answer any questions if there are any.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Chairman Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Gill, I misheard. Who you representing? Is it GMA right now?
No, sir. Columbia County.
Oh, I'm sorry, Columbia County. Well, to your point, it sounds like there's been numerous counties, local governments that could potentially take advantage of eliminating property taxes quicker than our six-year shot clock that we're proposing to make sure that nobody pays property at homestead taxes on their homestead. Ultimately, by 2032, eliminate all of them, but this will allow a faster path for some cities to get there.
Chairman, you're right, and I think that that there are a lot of counties and cities that are beneficiaries of investments. Think of the Hyundai plant down near Chairman Stevens, or the Rivian plant up the road from you, other economic development and development prospects that are really bringing in a lot of ad valorem, but you could use that ad valorem to set up these funds that are detailed in House Bill 1156 that I think we're going to get to next. But this constitutional authorization allows those local governments that are well-managed, that are lucky to have those, and facilitate those economic development prospects, drive that homestead tax liability down to zero.
That's a good bill for all our local communities.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Martin.
If you don't mind, Representative Richardson, I talked with Mr. Gale about this before. I'll
Yes,
ask
sir.
him directly unless you wish
That's
to do it.
fine.
You are a
Fine.
member, sir.
That's fine, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Gale, so we've talked about a little bit about this, and the reason you would prefer to do it in this route is you could just use the ad valorem tax base to roll back the millage in total, correct? But you might and then be rolling it back on the very economic project that was going to pay the bill, if you will, and that agreed to do that coming in. My question is, should this not pass or should this go forward, could you not do that same thing with a pilot and a millage rate rollback today under Georgia law, payment in lieu of taxes?
So I don't know how many communities use pilots, and that's a.
You just think that this is a better vehicle, but it could be used with a pilot if a community was familiar with it.
I'm just not familiar with how many communities use pilots. I'm guessing with most communities across the state, pilots are people that fly planes as opposed to tax mechanisms that.
I get that.
But you know what I mean. I
Yeah.
just think that it's not that common.
No, and to be clear, that's payment in lieu of taxes. Normally, it's less than the taxes would be.
Correct.
But there's nothing, I don't believe, in the statute that prohibits it from being more than.
And a lot of those, as you know, are used through development authorities.
And TADs, yes.
Right, and a lot of communities, my understanding, a lot of communities probably don't.
Just another method.
Right, and I think this is simpler, and I think that House Bill 1156, which we'll get to in a minute, sets up the implementation of how a local government would actually have this program function, and I think to a certain extent it would incentivize local governments to want to be a participating government in providing a local homestead incentive adjustment grant.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Martin. I tell you, if you want to, why don't you go ahead and discuss the bill that's accompanying this too, so we'll hear all the details, and then we'll come back and vote on each one.
It's House Bill 1156, LC 473906, which it's already at state law for the state. Even in the big bill that that is being discussed out of the House, the grant program is mentioned in there. But this would allow local homeowners incentive adjustment grant programs for municipalities and counties and so forth. So it just allows the local communities to go ahead and do what's already been in law since 2000. So.
Okay, thank you, Representative. Mr. Gale, you got any comment to that too?
I would just let you know if you want me to, Mr. Chairman, kind of walk through each of these different sections. I'll be glad to do that. But it does establish a mechanism where if a city or county wants to adopt and become a participating local government, which means that they start a local homeowners incentive adjustment grant program, they have to get first voter approval. So they put it on a referendum. And once that happens, assuming the voters pass it, then from that point forward, the local government can set up a fund, and if the money the revenues that they bring in exceed what they budgeted for in the previous fiscal year, then they can shift that money to start building up their fund. The fund can grow through time, and when the local government feels like they've got money to start pushing down the tax liability of homesteaded properties, they'll do that. The legislation also sets up the Department of Revenue would establish the guidelines for implementing this program. And it also sets up a process where if, let's say that there's a recession or a local government's doesn't feel like it's got the fiscal capacity to shift money in any given fiscal year, then they can basically choose to forego that. And essentially that's the gist of the program. And again, we wanted to be prescriptive in this. Unlike the General Assembly, you all, basically if you've got money to put into the state homestead tax relief grant program, you all make that decision at the state level through the appropriations process, and whatever you appropriate is then divided up across the state. This is more prescriptive, but I think that it specifically, we think, would give you all greater comfort in knowing how the local city and county governments would put together a grant program like this. And the grants would show up as a tax credit on the bill.
Is there a trigger when they start saving this money? Is there a certain level, a certain amount, a trigger that says, okay, when you reach this goal, you're going to start giving the taxpayers a break? Is anything like that in there?
There's a trigger. It's still a fiscal decision by the city or county government, but the trigger for appropriating to the grant fund is if your revenues exceed the budgeted amount for the previous fiscal year, and what you're anticipating in the next fiscal year is equal to or exceeds what you collected in that current fiscal year. So basically, if you're bringing in more than you anticipated, then you start shifting money to that fund, and then you disperse it based on how much you can afford to disperse it based on your homestead tax digest. You do a calculation of what you have in your fund. And the goal, of course, is to build the fund through time so that you could conceivably drive down to zero the tax liability of homesteaded properties in your jurisdiction.
Okay, Chairman Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I recall, whenever we first instituted LOST, local option sales tax, that was intended solely for the purpose of reducing and rolling back property taxes. It has turned into a service delivery strategy, slice of the pie. So what we're looking at here is really 2 cents to roll back, if people vote on that, to roll back property taxes. You don't suppose this might morph into something about who gets the money rather than a rollback of property taxes?
So thank you for bringing up LOST, and it rolls back property taxes across the board, not just homesteaded properties. This is directed just towards homesteaded properties, and so it would be on top of whatever rollback was
If
applicable.
If any.
Well, LOST doesn't typically roll back property taxes to zero in most jurisdictions. I mean, you've got some.
Yeah, it doesn't roll back at all in some cases, because it's coming to, again, that was my point, is originally it was put in for property tax rollback. People were sold on it. It morphed into a service delivery so that the counties and cities negotiate on what services they provide, and then that's how much money they get. So in some cases, I would contend that there's no rollback at all. But this looks like it's pretty prescriptive, and I feel a little more comfortable with this one moving forward if it gets that way. I just want to make sure that we know going forward that the original rollback property taxes didn't quite wind up being that way.
All right, thank you, Chairman Stevens. Anybody else, any other questions? Y'all, please go back and read this, because this is the first hearing on both of these bills. We'll come back for the second hearing. You may find a question between now and then, and we will discuss that again, too. So any last comments y'all would like to make?
I would just like to say, and then I'll turn it over to Representative Richardson. As he mentioned, we are very aware that figuring out a way to achieve property tax relief for homesteaded properties is part of the conversation. We're delighted that the language, the exact language that's in House Resolution 1178 is also included in the bill that Chairman Blackman has been working with the Speaker on, and 1156 is our intent to try to, and I'm glad, Chairman Stevens, that you've got a comfort level. Our intent is to provide a prescriptive way for local governments to provide that direct property tax relief for homeowners. So, Chairman.
We feel like with the intent of this bill then, and the passage locally, if it makes it and is passed locally, that the citizens will hold the feet to the fire to make sure that they get that refund back on their tax bill. And then we also feel that some of the development authorities, instead of maybe giving away the farm, they could see holding back a little bit, getting those tax revenues in, able to help the homesteads in their community.
All right. Anybody else? Thank you, Representative.
Thank you.
Mr. Gale, appreciate it. We'll let you know when the next meeting comes.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything? If not, the subcommittee's adjourned.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We'll call the Sales Tax Subcommittee of the House Ways and Means Committee to order. We have 2 items on the agenda this afternoon. We have the second hearing and available for action on House Bill 1077. Then we'll move on and hear House Bill 1179. Chairman Stevens, you're going to be with us here either way, so I'm going to let you go second. I think Chairman Williams may be as well. But with that, we're going to go to House Bill 1077. That's LC 590271.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, this is House Bill 1077. This basically extends the sales tax exemption for tickets and related fees for fine arts performances or exhibitions from 2027 through December 31st, 2032. I had a question the other day from one of my buddies asking me exactly what the fine arts were. Basically, that means symphonies, orchestras, poetry, photography, ballet, dance, opera, sculpture, etc. My grandmother used to say orchestra, but I can say orchestra. So that's basically what the bill does. It helps the communities with sales tax fees, and it extends the life of the sunset from 27 to December 31, 2032.
Committee have questions? Yes, sir.
So is it not true that this, just for the record, it only applies to nonprofit entities? So this is not for any kind of...
Correct.
Because there are some performances that may arguably classified as fine arts that are for profit, but this is just limited to nonprofits and simply extending the sunset.
The gentleman knows what he speaks. Basically, keep prices low, makes arts more affordable, brings in larger audiences, and helps local businesses. And you're correct.
Proper time, Mr. Chairman.
Are there any further questions? Let me just say also, we said in the last hearing, this is a full exemption. Many times we have people come in and ask the state to take their sales tax off, but the local community wants to keep theirs. This is everybody included, so everybody's partner. And then again, that's just an extension of the sales tax. If there's no further questions, we had no speakers sign up for this. We are in a position that we can take a motion. I have LC 590271. What's the pleasure of the subcommittee on this item? I have a motion due pass in a second on House Bill 1077, LC 590271. Is there discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. It passes on to full committee with due pass recommendation. Thank you, Chairman. We're going to move now to Chairman Stevenson. You have for us HB 1179. Is that the original bill number, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
59 LC 590273. Chairman.
Yes, sir. This is to bring some sort of sanity to the Wild West, if you will, for the destination marketing organizations. Hotel, motel taxes are collected by local governments. As everyone knows, local governments contract with what they call a DMO, a destination marketing organization. It uses these funds to promote tourism. All hotel, motel taxes today, half goes to the city. The other half goes to these DMOs that are contracted again by these that are 501c3s, nonprofits, to do nothing more, since these hotels tax themselves, to do nothing more than just advertise for tourism to put heads in beds, help bring that $5 fee that we all voted for. The language in SB 127 and 23 put some guardrails around the process, changing local DMOs. The Hotel Motel Tax Preference Review Board is under the Department of Community Affairs. This board is to review complaints by local DMOs. House Bill 1179 that's in front of you today would apply to these standards to all local governments. Frankly, on the strike-throughs on line 19 eliminates the $500,000 threshold of the collections of hotel motel taxes. Lines 31 through 43 gives the Performance Review Board the factors to consider when reviewing a proposed new private sector for nonprofits or their rejection. The language in 68 through 78 would introduce a timeline for submitting new local agreements on the distribution of the hotel motel taxes, publish instances of noncompliances online in the local legal organs. Mr. Chairman, what this basically does is basically when you have a regime change in a local government whose friends might want to be a destination marketing organization, might have no experience whatsoever, this bill adds some stability to those folks that actually know what they're doing in marketing for tourism for these hotels that are actually collecting and paying the tax. That's about as plain as I can make it.
Transparency.
Transparency.
Are there any questions to the gentleman? We have a couple of speakers, but I'll take subcommittee questions for the gentleman at this point. Yes, sir.
So,
you recognize.
Mr. Chairman, is it not true that what I hear you saying is it cuts out the shenanigans that could transpire?
A good way to put that is one of our former colleagues that went to prison. As a result of the shenanigans, we want to help them out so that they don't make this inadvertent move.
Any further questions? Subcommittee have questions of the author. First hearing. Jennings Hughes. I think this might be the first time we've heard from you this year. I don't remember.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Keep that in mind, members. Yes, sir.
Jennings Hughes. I lobby on behalf of the Georgia Association of Convention and Visitors Bureaus. We appreciate Chairman Stevens, what he does for tourism. He put it very well. We just want to say we support the bill. We've spoken with GMA. They don't seem to have any problems with it so far. We just want to make it fair and cut out the shenanigans. So.
Shenanigans is our word for the day. Anybody have, would you stand for questions if you have any?
Absolutely.
Do you have any questions for the gentleman? There, you have made your point clear. Thank you very much. Trent Nesbitt.
Well, good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Trent Nesbitt. I'm here on behalf of the Georgia Hotel and Lodging Association. And yes, shenanigans is the word of the day. And we are absolutely in the business of eliminating any shenanigans that might be happening on the local level when it comes to DMOs, destination marketing organizations. We are here in strong support of the bill. This will bring clarity and accountability to ensure that the hotel motel tax dollars collected by local governments are actually being used for their intended purpose, which is to put heads in beds and marketing the destinations where those dollars are generated from and delivering a strong return on investment for the communities that these dollars are coming from. So with that, I'll ask the committee for your favorable consideration of this great bill, and I will stand for any questions.
Thank you. Gentleman's offered to stand for questions. I feel like somebody ought to have one for him. I see none. Mr. Nesbitt, you have done your job well as the gentleman before you. There are no questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Members of the committee, this is the first hearing on the item. If there are no further questions, there are no further speakers on the item, I would encourage anyone to look over the bill again before, when it comes back the second time. We would probably be in a position to move this on to full committee if there aren't changes or objections. If there's nothing further before the subcommittee, we'll stand adjourned without objection. I see no objection. We are adjourned.